welcome to the program Memorable Memories, Memorable Moments with Yinka. Special guest in today's edition of the program is a successful banker, an illustrious son of Lagos, Ome Pataki, and a distinguished scholar. My guest is Dr. Bashir Ushudi. Sir, what is Alpha Group all about?
Thank you very much, Ms. Kwamade. So Alpha Group is a financial conglomerate. So it's got several subsidiaries. We've got Alpha Capital, which is SEC licensed as a management company. We've got Alpha Financial Services. We've got Alpha Estates. We've got Alpha Financial Partners. Now, some of these entities then invest in other financial institutions, like trustee, like mortgage bank, like non-interest financial institution. Aside, other entities. So sometimes, as a business, we integrate backwards to take equity positions here and there. Aside managing portfolio, investment portfolio for our clients.
Okay. This is huge. You're virtually into everything.
If you like.
So, what are your main objectives in this college?
Okay, so basically, we're largely an investment bank, very largely. Very importantly, our interest, our core aim is to promote non-interest finance, if you like Islamic finance. That's the primary purpose, the clear aim. Now, to achieve this clear aim, we've got several objectives, right? On the one hand, we want to use our financial style, right, to impact development, impact development as much as possible within our country, overall economic development, right, on the larger scale. On the same vein, on the other hand, we want to touch lives as much as we can. So we've got unique portfolios for women, particularly in MSME, and of course renewable energy. Got unique portfolios there. We have an interest in the trustee company. Well, apart from the regular trustee business, right? One of the things that we're interested in then is areas around inheritance.
Okay.
Estimates, when people are alive and when they're dead, they're no more. The major area that we're interested in. Again, on the real estate side, we see great opportunities there. We think that, yes, you can do a lot of real estate transactions and make a lot of money, but on our side, I want to then see how we can do a lot more in the area of social housing, which is an area that a lot of the big developers may not want to venture into. I mean, today in Nigeria, you only have about, mortgages as a percent of our GDP, just 0.5%. That's one of the lowest in the world. So overall, we're building a financial infrastructure that speaks to all of these areas, right? I'm not so much of lending as such, right? But trying to go into specifics, that can then relate to the main aim, which is overall economic development. That sounds big in banking. When you say economic development, like, hey, you don't just make money, right? But in our own case, we think that, that aim towards economic development is important, using non-interest finance modes, as much as possible. So that's basically the overall picture and the objective of Alpha Group. Okay, so non-interest finance is just a style of banking, the concept, the mode of finance. So what that then means is that it doesn't matter who wants to use it. So in Malaysia, a lot of Chinese use it. In the UK, a lot of regular Britons use it. So globally, the banking that prohibits interest, which is money on money, rather than do money on money, you then do partnership. Partnership is partnership anyway. You do partnership, you do buying and selling, you do buying and leasing. You provide other form of services. Basically that's non-interest finance. That's everything. So to answer your question directly, what we have found in Nigeria is that on the people taking facilities, right, 80% of them are not from Islamic faith. People taking facility. But people putting that money in the bank, in case of the money market, that's basically banks, we find that 80% of them are from the expected faith, from the Islamic faith. However, when you then go to the Sukuk, which is basically Islamic bond basically, you realize that more than 80% of those people that invest in so because they're corporate, large corporates, 80% of them are conventional financial institutions. So you can see the dynamics, right? So on the one hand, the money market, the bulk of those are put liability now, or rather deposit from the Islamic faith, right? But those that use the money are not, on the Sukuk, on the bond side, those that put the money at conventional financial institution. The bulk of the money, but at some point it was 90% of it, right? So you can see the dynamics in the market. So again, to answer your question, it's for everybody really.
So how can an average person access what you're going to give, or you have your regular customers?
So we also offer advisory services. So it means that if you're company and you want to raise money, for your business, so we can actually advise you on the best option to raise the money. You want to go to the bank, you get the money. You want to raise a commercial paper, that's like a short-term instrument in the market, which is basically the market to get money from different investors over just for less than a year. Or is it a longer term transaction? Or then suggest that you should do a bond, if you like, a Sukuk in this case, a non-interest bond, if you like, right? If it's long term. And sometimes, even if you're just an MSME client, we can advise you to go to certain institutions where you can get some of these funds. So usually, as a fund manager, we don't lend like that. We'll just organize the funds for the parties. So for those in MSME, yes, we can advise them to go to certain banks, or even package a proposition in such a manner that is sellable. Right? Of course, a lot of other government funds out there. Those that want to, even if you want to, for example, get a letter of credit, to do a transaction, we can advise you how to get it, how to use it, and they bring all the parties together. So for all of these transactions, we're in a position to pull the best entities or parties that will help make sure those transactions are successful.
You spoke about women. How did they come into the picture? Is it through SME?
Yeah, so gender is very important. If you like, women are highly vulnerable. They also pay back facility at the same time. They're more prudent when it comes to finance, because they use the money for the right purpose most of the time. Not all the time, but over 95% of the time, they will use the money for the right purpose. So one of the things we then put together is a unique gender fund, because gender fund does quite a bit. There are loads of foreign funds out there that will ordinarily be will like to put funds here. Of course, locally also, there are loads of local funds that can go into such a fund, something that is in pipeline, of course. Because in the past places where I've worked, we concentrated heavily on women, giving them facilities at reduced price, reducing the condition of the facility. And so here, when we structure funds for women entrepreneurs, right, we again structure in such a manner that the conditions are a lot more interesting, if you like, reduced, and that's because they're very prudent in terms of payment. So if two people come to me right now and say they want to raise $2 billion for a transaction, one's a guy and one's a lady, I'll most likely raise that fund for a lady or a company that is led by a lady, because the possibility that it will use the most prudent fashion is there, much higher, right? Yeah. So basically that's what we do. So we raise funds for them, but for the smaller ones, that's another thing we're trying to go into now. For the again through a fund, and we're also in the middle of a research right now, where we're basically showing we're building a unique model around taking care of those at the bottom of the pyramid, right? Of course, that means that we have to bring in other parties, other financial institutions that will come in to support in utilizing the funds to touch the lives of women.
Are youths considered in this wise? Youths, are they considered? When we talk about our population, youths are 65% higher.
Yeah.
So what are you doing about youths?
So generally, yes, I agree with you. they're more entrepreneurial than a lot of the older ones.
Yes.
Because they don't bother to go and start waiting to care for some new job somewhere.
Yes.
So it means that in the comfort of their rooms, they can design apps.
Yes.
They can design some nice thing, and they can sell.
Yes.
The more relaxed, they don't want to come to the office 5 times a week. They can't stand it. They don't want to wear suits, they want to just wear their Ankara trousers and their t-shirts.
Yes.
And not comb their hair. Right? And so
and not cook their hair.
But then it's stressed. Then it's stressing me. So because of that, so in their own case, so on the investment banking side, what we have seen is a lot of crowdfunding platforms emerging. So we can support them to build this technology, companies to a very large extent. So what that then means is that somebody wants to do a tech-related business, and it comes to us. We're not going to use investors' funds. We're going to speak with, the old money guys, people that have got old money, or people that are just there. I mean, they exactly don't know what they want to use that money for. They're willing to take risk. They want to do something new, right? So these are the kind of people put on a table to say, okay, come and take equity position in this business, start up equity position. So that's what the youth want. Again, for the youths, they may not know how to manage funds, so then you have to help them manage the fund effectively. Yes. They don't give them money. They guys can buy a new car first, and then they rent a house in a very expensive area, and then money does not then serve the purpose. So for the youths, when it comes to investment banking, we help them achieve, we help them set up. We guide them through the process. Right? And again, if they want facilities to do 1 or 2 things, they can go to conventional banks or non-interest banks to get facilities. But even there, because they have big ideas and they want to do all sorts, guiding them is what they really need, that guidance. So that's financial advisory on how to get the money, how to utilize the money, and when profit starts to come in, how to put those profits back into the business.
Well, that's it for today on the program, Memorable Moments, Memorable Memories. Our special guest on the program has been Dr. Bashir Ushedi of Arthur Group. He is the Group CEO of Arthur Group. Arthur Group is a financial conglomerate based in Lagos, Nigeria, and elsewhere in the world, because we do business anywhere you are, and we bring our venture just to your doorstep. Amika Paramolesha for me. I appreciate you so much for coming. God bless you.